And before we begin, let's generate our motivation and come home to our compassionate heart. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that compassion and kindness are in our very nature. They get obscured by anger and jealousy and resentment and so on. But if we can clear away the impeding factors, we can see that there's the seed of compassion there that we can water and have it grow. And so let's extend our compassion not just to the people that we know and care about, but also to strangers, and also to people whose behavior we find disturbing, or whose politics we don't agree with. And let's have compassion for all of those beings too. So compassion doesn't mean pity. We don't feel sorry for them. We just realize that they're suffering and wish them to be free of suffering. So we have the Sharing the Dharma Day once a month, every Sunday, for most of the months of the year, not when we're in retreat. And we usually go through a book. And after taking 3 years, I think, to go through Don't Believe Everything You Think, we graduated last year to An Open-Hearted Life, which is, this is a homegrown Spokane book, okay? It was co-authored by me and Dr. Russell Colts, who's a professor at Eastern, psychology professor. And it's not designed for a Buddhist audience. It's designed for a very broad audience of people who are interested in subduing the mental states that are adverse to compassion and growing the ones that increase our compassion. So we're on chapter 6. The chapters are all very short, and they all have little reflections or exercises at the end. So if you missed the first part, I think they're online. You can listen to them, or you can get the book too. Okay, so chapter 6. This chapter was written by Russell. So some of it, some chapters he wrote, some chapters I wrote, some chapters we wrote together. Okay? And we generally agreed with what each other said. But there were a few points where we didn't agree so much, so we tried to leave those out of the book, but once in a while they sneak in, you know? Okay, so for example, I had to take out everything about rebirth, because he didn't want that in the book, and I made him take out most of the stuff about brain chemistry being the cause of emotions. Okay. So, yeah, it was good. We agree on a lot of stuff. Yeah, we wrote this much in agreement, so, Yeah, and we didn't fight during it either. Yeah. Okay, so the chapter starts. When hearing the word compassion, some people think it means giving in to what other people want. Yeah, sometimes we think compassionate, oh yeah, I'm the doormat, whatever you want. Yes, we'll do that. That's not so smart, is it? That's not compassionate, because sometimes what people want is harmful. Others think compassion means trying to create a world in which everything is perfect, with everyone joining hands and humming inspirational songs. Yeah, that's what we do here at the Abbey. Oh, mani padme ho, oh, mani padme. Okay. In this imaginary world, no one struggles or cries. Oh, definitely not here. Um, all conflict is smoothed over. There is no pain or difficulty, and we all live happily ever after. Yeah, where's that going to happen? Some imagine compassion means being above it all. Yeah, serenely transcending all worldly troubles and moving through life unscathed and unaffected by difficulties. We also do that here. We may fantasize about drifting through life with sublime smiles on our faces, magically interacting with others in ways that instantly and effortlessly free them from their struggles and inspire them to completely turn their lives around immediately. Oh, yeah. That's a good daydream, isn't it? Yeah. We imagine how wonderful the world would be if everyone saw things from our viewpoint, if all those poor people could just understand what we understand and do things our way. Okay, so that's not compassion either. Here's a news flash. That's not compassion. It's self-indulgence, smacking of what is called idiot compassion. Okay? So idiot compassion is where you have quote, quote, compassion, but there's no wisdom to it. And it can actually be harmful for other people and for yourself. Compassion is not airy-fairy. It is not pretentious. It does not mean just to be comfortable and sweet all the time. People pleasers, this isn't for you. Okay? And it isn't an excuse to consider ourselves better than others. Imagine being a plumber and someone calls because his toilet isn't working properly. You had that experience? We have. It's fun. Yeah. So the plumber reports a terrible smell coming from underneath the house, likely indicating a broken sewage pipe that needs replacing. Showing up in our clean white uniform, the other person reports the toilets like this, and we're the plumbers, showing up in our clean white uniforms. We chat with him about the problems and offer well-meant advice. These things often sort themselves out. Yeah, be careful not to flush the wrong things down the toilet. Yeah, have a nice cup of tea and a Bicky, and you'll feel better shortly. Okay, this is all well and good, but it isn't going to solve the problem. We need to open up the crawl space under the house, crawl in to diagnose the problem, lug our tools in through the muck, and replace the broken pipe. That's why we have somebody else come and do it. Yeah, we don't want to do this. It's going to be uncomfortable. The smell will be nasty. Those white uniforms will definitely get soiled. And that's what is necessary if we want to help. Yeah, we have to get in there with people. Similarly, compassion requires a willingness to bring ourselves into contact with pain and suffering, our own and that of those we want to help. Compassion requires us to stay when things get tough, to tolerate the difficult emotions that arise when we come into contact with suffering and those who experience it. Compassion is courageous. And that's the title of the chapter, Courageous Compassion. Yeah, because we have to build up some courage and stamina and fortitude to overcome our dislike of being with people who are suffering. Yeah, and so we see this, very often in our lives. Somebody is very ill and in the hospital. They're a very close friend of ours, but we're so busy we don't seem to make it to the hospital to visit them. Yeah? Why? Well, it's not really that we're short of time. It's that going to the hospital gives us the creeps. It reminds us that we're also subject to illness and suffering, and we don't want to look at that. So, we'll visit them later. We send flowers and a card instead. Okay? Or another example is, your aunt or your grandmother, who you love, but every time that you talk to them, it could be your uncle or your father-in-law too, all you hear is complaints. Yeah. This is wrong, and this is wrong, and that person did this, and this person did that. And the conversation is the same every time. And you offer advice, and their response is, yes, but. Okay? You had that experience? Now, I know none of you are like that. Okay? It's all those other people. Yeah. And it's really disheartening and disagreeable. Yeah, when we try and help, and then we have to sit through, they're telling us the same story again and again and again. And I have so many things to do, and how can I end this phone conversation really quickly? Yeah. And somehow, our compassion towards this person is blocked. We're just basically thinking how distasteful it is to have to talk to them and hear their story. Okay, so it's these kinds of things that, happen to all of us, I suspect. I know they happen to me. Am I the only one? Yeah, if I am, then it's somebody else should come and teach this. Yeah, because I need to listen. So it takes something to, really be there with somebody who is in emotional pain or physical pain, or to get involved with things, even if it's just to offer a smile of empathy. Yeah, sometimes we're really, it's scary for us, or it's distasteful for us. So if we really want to cultivate compassion, then this is something to overcome. Also, sometimes we think, oh, if I let my compassion come up, then I'm being taken advantage of. And I remember 2 instances to this day that occurred like this to me in India, where at the time and afterwards I understood why I did what I did, but now I realize I wish I had done something else. So one was, this was in 1973, maybe 72, 73. I was traveling in India on the train. So India's modernized quite a bit since then, but still. And still in the Indian train stations, you see dead people, and you see corpses, you see, people with incredible injuries and illnesses and so on. And one young woman actually came up, and we had just gotten there on a Oh, we were in a third class train. Now they only have second class, but this was third class. So we were with the chickens and the cows. Not the cows, but the sheep. Really, you had them on the trains too. And I was just exhausted after this overnight thing. And we get to this train station, and this young woman approaches me. She's begging. And I just felt like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. She looked at me with eyes full of suffering, and I just looked back at her with my eyes full of suffering. And I didn't give her anything. And now I think, looking back on that, I didn't give anything because I thought, oh, I'm a tourist and these people beg and they take advantage of tourists. And then I realized, no, now I think, no, that's not it. Yeah. And it was nothing to give a little bit if I could have. Yeah. And another time, you get to hear all my stories. Aren't you fortunate? I can tell them 5 times again. I'm one of those people that tell stories. So another one was when I arrived in Delhi. This was right before the Gulf War. And I arrived in Delhi, and I was going to the place where I was going to stay. And a little child, they have children beggars, she started following me and saying bakshish, which means give me something, They're asking for a handout. And there's children all over the place. You're always, as a Westerner, confronted with beggars, and especially children. And so I was walking, and I said, go, and, no, I'm not going to give you anything. I said it nicely. She wouldn't stop. She just kept following and following. So I started saying mantra, and I thought, okay, if she's going to follow me, the least I could do is say some mantra, and then she gets a good imprint on her mind from hearing mantra. So for about a 20-minute walk, maybe it wasn't that long, maybe it was like 10 or 15, but it was a while, I said mantra, and she followed along with her hand saying bakshish, bakshish, and then finally when I got to where I was going, I just went in. And, I feel good about saying the mantra, and I think that helped her. But it wouldn't have been a problem for me to give her a little bit of money too. I mean, I know that they have, or not even money, give her food, because I know that they have kind of begging syndicates, and a lot of the people who beg have to give their money to the guy who's the chief of the beggar syndicate. But I could have given her some food or given her something else. Why didn't I do that? It wouldn't have been hard for me. But again, this thing of, oh, the beggars are just following me because I'm a foreigner. Yeah, that got in the way. Okay, so, yeah, I could go on and on and on about missed opportunities to be generous. Yeah, those are just 2 quite blatant ones. Okay. So it isn't easy to be around people who are suffering. Our brain plays a role in this. They have, our brains, have cells called mirror neurons that enable us to feel a bit of what those we come in contact with are feeling. This is why we cringe when we see others in pain. On a psychological level, we feel some of their hurt. Yeah. I don't think we need mirror nuance to feel that. Yeah. I think it's just a direct response of being a living being who wants happiness and doesn't want suffering. And we kind of know everybody's like us in that way. Yeah, so I think we kind of feel that naturally, even if we didn't have mirror nuance. Excuse me. Okay. Witnessing suffering can bring up powerful emotions in us, emotions we must learn to tolerate and work with if we are going to help. Yeah. The feelings that arise when we see others or even ourselves suffering can be painful. But this isn't a bad thing. It's a crucial part of compassion, one that we're wired to feel. Okay? So to have the, just the presence of mind to be able to bear seeing others in pain and have empathy, have compassion, do what we can, but often it's a situation in which we really can't have much effect at all. Yeah? And so sometimes we feel frustrated. We give advice, we give people things, it doesn't turn out the way we want it to. Yeah? But the idea is to be able to deal with our own discomfort without our getting anxious or distressed or freaked out or overwhelmed by saying, there's just so much suffering in the world, I can't bear it. Yeah, because if we get overwhelmed like that, then we're not going to be able to be there with anybody who is in difficulties because we just go into overload. Yeah, so to be able to bear it, and I know for myself personally, the Buddhist practice has really helped me in that way. And I think in particular what's helped is knowing that suffering has causes and that some of those causes can be eliminated. Well, all of those causes can be eliminated. So that gives hope and optimism. And all those causes cannot be eliminated immediately, which gives me patience, fortitude, and puts my feet on the ground. Okay? So yes, the causes can be eliminated, but it's not going to happen quick and easy. And I can't control all the things that are involved in stopping the causes of other people's suffering. And I can't, create all the causes for their happiness either. In fact, I have a hard time either abandoning the causes of my own suffering and creating the causes for my own happiness. Yeah, because from a Buddhist viewpoint, we talk here about karma and about getting our own act together and acting ethically. And, it's not always easy because our self-centered mind pops up and we go for the immediate pleasure instead of the long-term benefit. Yeah. So we see that in ourselves. And we know it's only something we can work with. Nobody else can make us change. And so it is with others. We can set an example, we can give advice, whatever, but we can't crawl inside other people's minds and make them change and make their behavior different. Yeah. I was just reading a letter from one of the inmates that I correspond with, and he is doing a program in one prison that's a self-help program that he's finding very, very helpful, and it's going very deep psychologically into things, and he's finding it very, very helpful for bringing stuff up and using his Buddhist practice and psychology and so on, clearing a lot of stuff away. But he wrote that he sometimes feels very sad because some of the other people in the program are still using drugs in prison. He hears them still swearing at and screaming at their girlfriends over the phone and calling them bitches. He still sees them watching, reading urban novels I had to look that up. I didn't know what that meant. Yeah, now I know. And so, he feels sometimes just discouraged because here these people, have the opportunity to benefit from the program, and some of them are just doing all their old habits. And he knows that he can't change them. There's a few of the guys he has a good relationship with, and he mentioned to one of his friends, about taking drugs. Yeah, any of you who thought that there's no drugs in prison, that's a wrong idea. Okay, very prevalent. And in fact, I had to look up the names of the latest prison drugs. They're way beyond opioids and crack. They're so So he talked to one of his friends about it, and his friend said, "Okay, I'll try," but it's difficult because he's trying and he's living in that environment where not everybody else is trying. But he's making a lot of headway and is actually quite a good practitioner. Yeah, a very good practitioner. Okay. So we can try a brief exercise. Take a few breaths and notice the feelings and thoughts you're experiencing. Now say to yourself, hungry child. Or say to yourself, unloved child. And notice any feelings that arise when you say those words and allow them to sink in. You may find yourself feeling touched or sad, feelings I experienced when writing them. That's no accident. We're born with the capacity to share each other's pain and are equipped with the tools of compassion to respond to it. We need courage and patience to face this pain. It isn't easy because we have powerful instincts that motivate us to recoil from things that cause us discomfort. But if we allow ourselves to constantly pull away from the suffering that we see around us or feel within us, we won't be able to understand it well enough to help. Okay? So we need to understand the suffering and not pull away from it, but not get overwhelmed by it. Okay? And that can be tough. Okay? We have to be willing to put ourselves into the shoes of those who are suffering, to see the world through their eyes. We have the ability to stay and to listen. This means stopping our habitual tendency to escape the situation, assign judgmental labels, or give thoughtless advice so that we can move on. Rather, we need to look deeply at the suffering in order to understand its nature, its causes, and its remedies. Then, when we act in compassion, we can do so wisely and confidently. So some of us are more afraid of seeing other people physically suffer, and some of us are more afraid of seeing other people mentally suffer. And when I talk about mental suffering, I don't just mean people being depressed, but also people being angry. We're afraid of other people's emotions. Okay, so it's interesting to look inside, and see what pushes our buttons, and then try and work our way through that. And remembering that the causes of suffering can be eliminated, but not always immediately. And to realize, because some of us, when we see suffering, we think we have to fix it. We become Mr. and Ms. Fix It, which is coming next. And we feel like, okay, somebody's suffering. I have to do something to make it go away. And then we jump in and we get involved, but sometimes without much wisdom. And so we do things that actually become harmful for the person that we're trying to benefit, or become harmful to ourselves, or harm a third party. Yeah. So, for example, somebody, we were talking about this morning, sometimes with the inmates. People, some of the guys, they're quite smart, and very smart, and they know how to talk a good story and get you to feel sorry for them. And then they say, in my canteen account, I don't have any money. Can you please send me some money? Or, can you call my mother for me? Call my lawyer for me? Please do this or that. Or, send me this, send me that. And so they know how to talk about that. And it is very interesting because, especially with women, there's some women really are attracted to the men who are imprisoned because these guys are suffering and they've had such a hard life, and I'm going to save them. Yeah. And then they get involved in something that's not so good. And for example, sending them money and going into credit card debt oneself, that's not too smart. Yeah, you don't really know what they're going to use the money for. Getting involved with their lawyer, their family, that's not our business if we're a Dharma person communicating with them on the level of Dharma practice. Yeah, if we're a pen pal, we stay on the Dharma. We don't get involved with personal things because we don't know the whole situation. Yeah. So it's very important to be very clear in that way. But we can certainly empathize and let somebody know that we hear them and, engage with them in another way so that they feel heard, they feel listened to, but we're not letting ourselves get conned. Yeah? Because letting yourself get conned doesn't do any good for anybody. Yeah? I could tell you stories about this. Let's keep going. Well, I'll tell you one story. So we had somebody here who, during retreat, and the inmates often do the retreat from afar with us, and so during this particular retreat, we said that some of the retreatants could correspond with inmates. So there was one woman here, she was having a lot of marital problems at the time. And she started corresponding with one guy who was in prison because, his wife was going off with somebody else and then issued a restraining order against him, but he had to go get something in the house and da, 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 da. Okay? So then they started both writing back and forth about their marital problems and what's going on and the legal things about the marital problems. And pretty soon, I'm noticing that there's letters coming like every 2 days from this guy here, And I go, what in the world's going on? And then after the retreat, oh, she's going to the prison to visit him. Yeah. And they start a relationship. No, this is not why Dharma people write to inmates. Okay. So, I don't actually know what finally happened with that because we told her that it wasn't so good to do that. But of course, she didn't like what we said. So She stopped writing to us after she finished the retreat. What can you do? Okay. So there's a reflection here that says, getting to know ourselves. So consider some situations that make you uncomfortable, that you tend to avoid. For example, how do you feel and react when you are with others who are in physical pain, or who are feeling sadness, grief, fear, anger, or hopelessness? Yeah. Can you stay there in the room with them? Notice the experiences you are comfortable sharing with them and which ones prompt you to pull back. So I'm going to let you take that reflection home with you and continue with the next chapter. But this is something really to think about. Mm-hmm. See where do our buttons get pushed? Okay, now the next chapter. I wrote this chapter. Okay. Because I wouldn't have left you with that at the end of that chapter. So this chapter follows that chapter. No, seriously, because that chapter, if you just leave it there, then sometimes your buttons are getting pushed and so that's why I want to go into the next chapter, which is called Confusion About Compassion. Okay. While everybody admires compassion, there is a lot of confusion about it. In addition to learning what compassion is, it's also good to know what it isn't. Okay? Having compassion does not mean we become people pleasers. Oh, please, what do you need? What do you want? Please sit down. May I give you this? May I give you that? Do you feel comfortable? Oh, it's too cold for you. Let me do this. Oh, that's inconvenient for you. I'll change my whole schedule around so that everything works for you. Oh, you don't like my idea. I'll change my idea. I want to please you. Okay. You know that one well? Yeah? Some people are, yeah. We do skits sometimes at the Abbey. We did. There was a great skit on people pleasing. Yeah, she was the star. But she had some good competitors. Yeah. Unfortunately, she's learning to resign. Yeah. We need a people pleaser, somebody who's going to fix all of our problems. Who else is good at that? Oh, you are too, huh? Okay. Having compassion does not mean we become people pleasers. The motivation of a people pleaser is self-protection. This sounds weird. If you're a people pleaser, you think your motivation is compassion. It's not. Yeah, it's self-protection. Yeah. It is not genuine care for another person, but wanting other people to think well of us or to be nice to us. Yeah. If somebody, is suffering or asks us for help, if we say no because we sincerely are incapable of fulfilling what they want or cannot do what they want, we feel terrible. We feel like failures. So we blame ourselves for not being able to solve this person's problem. And we're also afraid they're not going to like us. Okay? So then we get anxious. We do everything, we got to make things right with that other person so that they stop suffering, so that I can feel good about myself, so that they can like me. So our motivation really isn't compassion. Yeah, it's attachment to reputation, and it's protecting ourselves from feeling bad about ourselves. Okay. That's hard to hear when you're a people pleaser because you really think you're doing the right thing. Yeah. Compassion does not involve interfering in other people's lives and fixing their problems. What? I thought that was the meaning of compassion. That I get involved in their lives. They need me. They need my involvement in their lives. They need me to come and rescue them and to fix their problem and to, make it all better again. And I need to feel needed. Yeah? Okay. So compassion does not involve interfering in other people's lives and fixing their problems. Becoming Mr. or Ms. Fix-It brings the focus back to us. So remember, compassion is an attitude. The behavior comes afterwards. We have to make sure that we have the correct attitude, the correct emotion. Okay? So we think, I can't stand to see another person suffer. I've got to do something about it. So it's, I can't stand to see you suffer. Instead of, you're suffering and I want to do what I can. It's, I can't stand it, so I've got to do something so that I feel good. Okay. With this thought, we risk getting more involved than the other person wants. Have you ever had somebody come and try and fix your problems when all you were asking for was just a little bit of empathy? This happens a lot in intimate relationships. Yeah? You have a problem, you tell your partner, you just want them to listen and to offer some empathy and to understand. You know what you need to do. You're grown up, you can handle it. But you just want to share and have some empathy. But the other person doesn't do that. They jump in and they start giving you a ton of advice that you don't want. Yeah? Have you ever had that happen? Yeah? You're just looking, just understand. Just say, yeah, I get it. Nod your head. Show me that we're connecting on a heart level. That's all I'm asking for. And then it's, well, first you should do that, and then you should do this, and then do that, and this, and I'll help you, and we could go out and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And we're like, wait a minute, you didn't hear me. I'm wanting connection on a heart level. I'm not wanting intellectual advice. Okay? So we've all been in that situation of wanting that and not getting it. But how often is the situation reversed when the other person is really simply just looking for some empathy and understanding? But instead, we jump in and we are Mr. or Ms. Fix-It and do this and do that and do the other thing. Yeah. And one thing I notice is many people, because many people come to me with problems, yeah, and some of them are sincerely looking for advice. Sometimes I'm not always so smart in figuring out the ones that are sincerely looking for advice, the ones that are sincerely looking for empathy, and a third group, the ones who just like to hear themselves talk and complain. Okay? So what I notice sometimes is somebody will tell me their story. And I can begin to pick up, now I'm getting a little smarter, because when the person's told the story many times, it comes out in a certain way. So, okay, they've told that many times. But okay, then I try to give some of the advice because they say, what do I do? So I give some advice. And the response is,
Yes, but
yes, but you don't understand. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. I used to give people 3 yes buts. Then it went down to 2. I'm getting smarter. 1 yes but. Yeah. 1 yes but. And then I turn it back to them and I say, you're a smart person. What do you think you should do? Yeah. Because I see it's useless to let somebody go on and on and on repeating their story and getting themselves more and more upset. And they're not really looking for anything I have to say. Sometimes it's really interesting. Sometimes I'll say that to them. I'll say, I've offered several ideas and none of them seems to satisfy you. What do you think you need to do? Yeah. And then, they say something. But yeah, anyway, very interesting. Yeah, I'm a 1 yes but person now. Yeah. Okay. We become so energized by the thought, I'm going to solve her problem, that we may inadvertently make the other person feel powerless and helpless. Yeah, because they're not looking for advice. We step in there to fix it. They feel powerless. They feel, like infants, that they can't take care of themselves. It's much better, to help somebody learn how to solve their own problem so that they feel empowered and they feel confident. Yeah. If we jump in and solve everything, it doesn't work. Now, if the other person's a child, yes, sometimes you need to jump in and protect the child and solve the child's problem because they don't know how to do it. Okay? But then you can educate the child along the way, yeah, or at least show a good example of how to act when those kind of problems come up. And then you help the child and you discuss it with them afterwards. Yeah. No one wants other people to control their life out of a mistaken sense of compassion. Sometimes the most compassionate thing to do is to teach others how to help solve their own problems and then to step back and give them the opportunity to do so. And this can be hard because sometimes they don't really want to solve their own problems. And sometimes they just, they crash. But working with the inmates, what they've told me is sometimes crashing is the best thing that happens to you because that's when you realize that you're responsible and only you can change your own thing. Yeah. When they succeed, so give them the opportunity to solve things. When they succeed, their self-confidence will increase. If they don't, hopefully they will learn from their mistakes. If they ask us for tips on how to deal with the situation, we can do that while at the same time respecting their autonomy. Okay, so I don't know if I put this in here. Oh, yes, I did. One story, so I'll keep reading, then you'll hear the story. Compassion does not entail becoming a doormat that others trample on or allow others to take advantage of us. Compassion does not involve misdirected forgiveness, such as in the case of domestic violence. It's okay, dear. You beat me last night and the night before, but I have compassion for you and I forgive you. You can beat me again if you wish. That's what we're actually saying. I have somebody, you struck me, you beat me. Oh, poor boy. You took it all out on me, all your frustration, but I forgive you. Okay, that is not compassion, that is foolishness. That helps neither others nor ourselves. When our children or we are in danger, we should leave the situation immediately and not return until the other person has received the help he needs so that the violence has ceased and the situation is safe. Yeah. We don't need to stay, and we should not stay in situations that are dangerous, especially domestic violence situations, where either the children or ourselves are in danger out of a mistaken notion of compassion. Sometimes the most compassionate thing is you leave and you say, I'm not coming back until you get help and this behavior ceases. Yeah? Because if you don't, you go back and the whole thing happens again and again and again. Yeah? That doesn't help the other person, doesn't help you, doesn't help the kids. Although we maintain compassion for others who are overwhelmed by disturbing emotions, we do not allow them to harm us. So in cases of domestic violence, you can still have compassion. Somebody's in pain, they need help. You don't hate them, but you don't keep yourself in a situation where you can get hurt. Okay? This is not only for our own safety, but also for their benefit, since they will face many problems due to their violent behavior. Yeah, so letting somebody continue to be violent does not help. Yeah. You remember the Parkland shooter? Yeah, he was staying at some family friend's house, and he got into an argument with them. Because the mother had said, you can't bring guns here. And he got very upset and got into a fight with her son. And then he walked out of the house and she called the police. And that was good. What happened that didn't work is that the police and the social workers didn't follow up, and this kid didn't get the help he needed. But, what she did was good, because if he had stayed in the house, she may have wound up being a victim. Yeah. It's a horrible, sad situation. I mean, this kid was screaming for help for years. Yeah, and didn't get it. In fact, compassion may entail acting in a way that the other person does not like at all. With genuine compassion, we may even have to jeopardize a relationship with someone we care about in order to benefit that person. So a man once told me that as a teenager, he acted out and got in a lot of trouble with the law. Each time his mother would go to court and get him out, and then he'd steal and drink or sell drugs yet again. But one time his mother looked at the judge and said, "My son is out of control. You keep him." And left the court. He was stunned and sat in jail for a while. At first he was quite upset. Yeah, he was mad at his mother for not rescuing him. But it made him reflect on his behavior and stop taking his mother's kindness for granted. As a result, he began to settle down. And he realized that it was his behavior that was the source of the problem, and he needed to get his act together. Yeah. Compassion also gives us the confidence to say no when faced with someone's manipulative behavior. Giving into their scheming or pleas helps neither them nor us in the long run. Although the other person may be angry, we do not doubt our decision when we know that what we're doing is a good choice done with a compassionate motivation. So a relative comes to you, oh, I really need some money, I'm really in debt, can I have a little bit of money? And you know that they drink and drug, or drink or drug. Yeah? Do you give them money? Oh, I really need some money. I need to pay for this or that for my child, or do this or that kind of thing. And you know that it sounds good, and you'd love to give money for what they're saying they're going to use it for. But you know that person, and you know they're not going to use it for what they're telling you, that they're going to go out and buy booze or drugs. Is it compassion to give them money? Even if they guilt trip you, oh, but you're my relative, don't you care so much about me? We were children together and we've helped each other so many times. Now you're telling me no. Yeah, it's heart-wrenching. We care about the person, we want to help, but we know that they're not going to use the money in the way they say they're going to use it. Yeah. So in that case, the kindest thing to do is to say no. Yeah. And say, I will take you to a drug detox center, and I will help you enroll in treatment, but I will not give you just cash. Then they do more to guilt trip you and make you feel lousy about yourself, that you're so stingy because I don't really have a drug problem. You're just projecting all that on me. I'm really trying to turn my life around now. Can't you help when I really need it? Yeah, you could write the script yourself, couldn't you? Yeah, but you stay with what you know is the right thing. Yeah, I'll take you to a detox center. I will not give you cash. It's hard, but when you have an attitude that genuinely wants that other person to stop, you want to cease that person's suffering, sometimes you have to do things that sound harsh, but they're actually kind. Yeah, like what this young man's mother did. Yeah, because he told me, that was him as that kid. And he got his act together after that. Okay, so I think we didn't finish this chapter. Oh, just a page and a half left. You can finish it next time, okay? I left the book in the mug. Okay, it's page 25, top. Okay, so we'll just sit quietly for a moment, digest, think about what you heard so that you can take something home with you, and then we'll dedicate. And then let's rejoice at the good energy we created as individuals and as a group through thinking about something that's difficult to think about, and by having the aspiration to develop really heartfelt compassion and the wisdom to use our compassion so that it actually benefits others. So rejoice at the good energy, even though we don't have firm conclusions, and this may have pushed our buttons and given us a lot to think about. But just the fact that we're thinking about this, we're trying, we we have that aspiration to learn and develop compassion is so wonderful and so meritorious. So to dedicate that positive energy towards the well-being of all others and ourselves.